you to not be first?
Do we do enough? Well, I never shut up about it.
It must have been about 16, 17. We nicked their guilt rings. Right, the bouncer's guilt ring.
This is no good for me. That's the reality. If you want the honest truth, and I see it every day.
This is Umar for IFL TV. We're in Wrocław. You're not at the Fight Hotel, Frank. You're in a different hotel, maybe we'll use the word different.
Yeah, it's slightly different. It's a bit out of the way. But yeah, it's okay, nice and quiet.
Yeah, Poland treated you well so far?
Yeah, it's lovely. I mean, the weather's beautiful. It's quite warm. And it's how clean it is. The streets are so clean here. I mean, I'm pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, I think we could definitely...
Much cleaner than back where we come from.
I was going to say, sure. we could learn a thing or two from here.
Well,
could. Not me and you, but...
Not me and you, no. We pick our litter up.
Right, Daniel's had a very good camp from what I hear in Granada, Spain, world-class facilities. We saw him at the workout yesterday. What did you make of his physique, his shape?
Well, I've been talking to him regularly and I've seen him a couple of times, and I think physically he's there. He had that bad injury to his leg in his last fight, and he's had great treatment on that. Colin Lewin has been working with him on fixing that for him. So we're all pretty satisfied with that. And he's a great trainer anyway. He trains very hard. You only got to look at his physique. I think he's in a good place mentally. As we're speaking now, he's in a very good place. So it's all about now just taking it easy, not getting stressed. I don't think he will get stressed, but having no problems and just saving all his energy up for the fight now.
Mm. He's been doing high altitude training in the mountains in Spain. So in terms of stamina, endurance, obviously that could play a key part on Saturday night.
Well, I think he's got good stamina anyway. He's been 10 rounds in the past, and he's got quite a good engine on him. So I'm not particularly worried about his physical side of him. I think it's there. You can look at it and think as an amateur, he only had 7 senior bouts, so he's not got massive amateur experience at a senior level. Certainly not the amateur experience that Usyk's had, and he's certainly not had the experience at high level as Usyk's had. But then Usyk's 10 years older than him, so now's the time to step up and hopefully create some history.
It would be very historic. Are we talking, if he does pull it off on Saturday, are we talking Mike Tyson, Buster Douglas territory?
I think so. But the way for me, no. But for the way the bookmakers are talking, and a lot of people who are in the sport, very much so.
Frank, the last time a British heavyweight challenger boxed a Ukrainian unified heavyweight world champion on mainland Europe, he dethroned him 8 years ago.
He did, and he went in there as a total underdog as well, big underdog. And he done a job, and he done an excellent job. And if you look again at the experience that he had, that man in Tyson Fury, what he had at that level, he didn't have a massive experience at world title level.
Mm. Frank, I'm sure you saw the comments that Oleksandr Usyk made on your channel to Dev, where he said he took the fight with Chisora, in his words, he took it easy to lure Joshua in. Do you believe Oleksandr Usyk about that?
Well, he can say what he likes. It's irrelevant. I mean, I know what I see, and I know that Chisora took the fight to him, and he didn't like he was holding up on him to me. But it's all irrelevant now, because we're a couple of days away. We've got the weigh-in today. We're a couple of days away, and whatever it's going to be now. We can all talk. All the talk doesn't matter now. What matters is the deeds.
Mm. But Daniel has to. You say he's in a good place mentally, but it's going to be going into the Lions' Den, 40,000 Ukrainians. He's got to handle his nerve on Saturday.
That is it. I mean, that's what he's got to do. But he's got to block that out, and he's got to focus what his job he's got in front of him in the ring. And other fighters have done that in the past on occasions. We mentioned earlier Tyson done the same thing when he went to Germany and dethroned Klitschko. I do think he's got the capability. I really do think he has the mental capability to do it. In speaking with him and how he feels, they're going to do it. I'm quite sure they're going to try and leave him in the ring for a little while, because obviously the champion will come in second. All those things are going to be going on, load of mind games, but he's got to deal with that because that's what good fighters do. That's what champions do, or would-be champions do. That's what they have to deal with.
Have you played it out in your mind? Have maybe dreamt about it, about Daniel landing that big shot and finishing Usyk?
Look, I've said that, I fancy him to knock him over if he catches him. But it's not going to be about looking for a big punch. If he looks just to throw a big punch, then he'll come unstuck because he'll be winding himself up and he won't be relaxed. He needs to go out, he needs to take the centre of the ring, he needs to be the boss, and he needs to throw that jab, keep throwing the jab, relax, get into a rhythm, but keeping the other guy on the back foot. That's what he needs to do. He needs to do completely the opposite what AJ did against him on 2 occasions.
Do you think Joshua overthought his fights with Usyk?
I think he overthought it, but I thought I think he's showing him too much respect. I'm not saying he shouldn't show him respect, don't get me wrong, but he was the champion at the time, and he fought Usyk's fight rather than fighting his fight.
Do you think Daniel Dubois is a bigger puncher than Anthony Joshua?
Yeah. Asked him. Asked AJ.
What do you mean by that?
Well, they sparred, didn't they? And he knocked him over.
Okay. Do you think as well the fact that Daniel doesn't seem like too much of an overthinker, which was obviously Joshua's downfall in his fights with Usyk, that actually might be a bit of an advantage for Daniel?
Yeah. Do you know what? You just... No one knows what's going to happen till the bell rings. You've got all the the best laid plans, everything, but you've got to have a few plans, and you've got to be able to deal immediately. You've got to have a brain that deals with the situation that you're in. That's what a good boxer needs to have, and that's what a boxer. Let me just kill this.
Who was that, Frank?
That is what's his name? That pest Frank Smith keep trying to be my pal. Right, go on, mate.
Didn't expect that.
A boxer needs, he needs to be able to deal with that, and he needs to, obviously think on his feet, and did you say not overthink it? Because you can overthink it. You can play it out in your mind, 10,000 different ways, but at the end of the day, you can only play it out when the guy's in front of you, doing what he's doing, and doing what you're doing to counter what he intends to do.
Is the worry maybe with Saturday if Daniel doesn't sort of assert his authority early on, and we know once Usyk gets into a rhythm and reads a fight, he's fantastic as the rounds go on. That could be the biggest sort of trouble for Daniel.
Well, he's a very good boxer, there's no doubt about it. He's got a great trainer, very good trainer, and he was a brilliant, as I've said, cruiserweight. He was a brilliant cruiserweight. I hope and believe this will be his toughest fight as a heavyweight, because he's got a young guy who's hungry and coming to fight. His previous fights, the previous guys he's fought at heavyweight have all been old guys.
Frank, given your comments to me when we were talking about the Fury-Usyk negotiations, and you talked about Usyk's value, he's obviously the A side in this fight on a pay-per-view on TNT Sports box office, and you were talking about Usyk's value. So, going off your comments, it's not going to surely do great on TNT Sports box office. I
think it'll do good business because a British fighter's involved. But if he was fighting, say, Hrgovic, then it wouldn't do a big business on British box office. And where else would it do any good business? Because there isn't a box office going on in Ukraine for obvious reasons. And where Hrgovic comes from, was it Croatia? Yeah. There's no big TV market there that generates income. The big income areas are America and us, really. That's it, as far as box office is concerned. And the fact he's fighting a British fighter, that means that it enables him to get a decent payday. But it's nowhere near what the type of monies they were asking for when we were trying to put the fight in the UK with Tyson. Nowhere near it at all.
I watched that clip that TNT put out when you were all on a round table, you, Oleksandr, Daniel and Alex Krashuk. There was, I don't know if they took bits out, but there was just one sort of section of you and Alex going back and forward about Fury Usyk and the negotiations there. You talked about we're the only ones who made an offer. So what happened? Did they film more, or did some bits come out?
I mean, what we didn't want to do is round the table, and it's disrespectful to, obviously, to Daniel and to Usyk, because you're talking about their fight, and then we're going off on a tangent talking about something else. It's something that needed to be answered, but the facts are, and the facts were, and the facts are, we have never ever received an offer, ever, for that fight this year. Never.
And what did he say about that after? Did you speak about when it stopped
What did
filming?
he say? He admitted, he acknowledged that. And let me tell you something, the winner of this fight, there's a big fight to be made for a unification, and we're determined to make that happen. Now, I expect it to be Daniel, and I know you say I'd say that, but I do. And if it isn't Daniel, then we will work to make the fight with Usyk. And he'll get an offer.
With your guys in Saudi Arabia?
He'll get an offer. I'm not going to go into detail, but he will get an offer. And that's it. But I expect Tyson to be meeting Daniel to unify the titles, for the two of them to get unification on.
From your perspective then, on the video with TNT, that's how it started. I think Alex said, someone's been running away from Usyk for a year. He still says things like this. So
Well, it's bullshit. I mean, how are we running away? They made an offer, skills challenge last December. This is becoming very...
You have done this about 30 times.
I know. They made the offer last December and we accepted it. We accepted that offer. Then they said it'd be on. It couldn't happen in December because he was injured, so we put it on in February. They couldn't put it on February. They said they'd put it on April, and they didn't put it on. So Tyson accepted that offer. We accepted it, but it didn't happen, and it wouldn't happen this year, and it's never going to happen with him. That's a fact of life, and so there's been no offers, and so how can you run away from something that you haven't had? And the only ones who've been making offers to put the fight on in the UK was us, and we agreed the terms, we agreed the splits, and they come out with some crap about other things that were being asked, small things, if you remember, and go and look at your interview, small things, and he'd had enough, but it was a load of nonsense. It was just a nonsense. Tyson even said if he wins, he'll give him if he loses, he'll give him a rematch again. But it's all irrelevant now, because all that matters is Saturday, and out of Saturday will determine when the big unification is going to be and who it's going to be between. One person who's definitely going to be in the mix is Tyson.
Well, just one more on Tyson, a little bit more light-hearted. Obviously, he's had his Netflix series come out. It's still at #1, I believe. So his popularity's still there.
What have I been saying from day one? I've been telling everyone from day one who don't want to listen, the haters don't want to listen, and it is what it is, and you're never going to change their minds anyway. Not that I care, really, to be quite honest. But the facts are, he's the lineal heavyweight champion of the world. He has had 3 books go to #1 bestsellers. He's got the #1 program on Netflix. We've got 500 million, I think it is, subscriber. It's the #1 watch program on Netflix. So this event in Saudi against Ngannou, it's going to be, like I've been telling you all, massive. It's huge because it's Tyson Fury, who's huge. That's why it's going to break box office records. That's what will happen.
More than Mayweather-Pacquiao, you believe? I believe that's the highest.
Well, Mayweather's never had sold 3 books that have gone to #1. Mayweather's never had a Netflix. Look, Floyd Mayweather's a great promoter of himself and done brilliantly. And even if it don't beat that, one thing's for sure, it's going to be massive. It is a massive, massive crossover event. And like I've been saying from day one, you haven't even seen what's going to happen yet as far as PR is concerned. It's going to be huge. It's going to be a massive event.
Frank, is it going to be a massive event? I don't think you've told us.
They're changing the name of it now to the massive. No, it's going to be. It will be. See, stand on it. The venue that's being built for it is amazing. They're building this beautiful, beautiful arena. So it's going to be great.
Right, shouldn't forget this Saturday as well. You've got Hamza Shiraz in a really tough fight.
We have, and he is in a tough fight. Like Daniel, he's fighting a Ukrainian, so he's fighting. He's the away fighter. But I believe in him. He's looking really good. He's been out of the ring for a while. He had that injury in Ramadan and so forth. But he's back in now, and I think it's going to be an exciting fight. He's a class act.
Do you believe he'll be a world champion one day?
I do. And I hope him and Denzel get to then fight each other for the title.
Definitely. Okay, let's just move away from this Saturday. Now, I did an interview with you at your call after Dennis's majority draw with
Where my
Baluta.
small hall?
I was going to come on to that, actually. And Frank Smith and Eddie Hearn responded the day after at their show on the Saturday. I'm sure you saw the comments, Frank, about the small hall promoter, etc. Get back in your cupboard, these sort of things. Responding to comments that you made about drug-free sport and the situation with Alicia Baumgartner. So let's start there actually, because I'll get your response to Alicia. You said that she was going to do, or she had done a deal with Jake Paul, an MVP. She said that that's not the case. She said that publicly about you.
She said she's still. They say they've still got a contract. They've got one fight left on the contract, but they haven't extended it. So I understand. But that didn't. And obviously she's got a fight left on there. That's probably a bit of a issue for her for talking to other people. But allegedly she's been talking to people, and allegedly she was going to leave. But you know what? It's irrelevant because she tested positive, and that's not what it's about. It's not about her. It was about the crux of that interview, and what I'm trying to get across. It's about drugs-free sport, and it's about their testing, and it's about the fact that the test that they have, number one, do not cover substances that are banned by VADA or UCAD, so their tests are not really fit for purpose. And secondly, when they do test, the results are not sent to them. They send the sample to the laboratory, and the laboratory then send it back with the results to the promoter, which in that case is Matchroom, and it's up to them to determine what to do with it, whether they're going to show it or not. Now in this particular instance they did, and everybody who's close to it believe there was a reason why it was shown this time round. But let's put it this way: they didn't want to show the results for. Let's talk about the Creek. What's his name said, the T-boy. He come out was saying about how much that they believe in, was it drug-free sports and all what they do for it and so forth. His partner is Chris Eubank's sister, I believe. Is that right?
Yes, Emily Eubank, yeah.
Okay, so his first test that he had, Conor Benn, which he failed, according to Chris Eubank Senior and Junior and everybody, they were unaware of that first test. Correct?
Yes.
That didn't come out. We knew about the second test, and then the first test came out a while afterwards. And he's saying, Frank Smith, what they're doing for the sport and drugs and so forth. How can you let them be the arbiters of drug testing? How can you allow him or anybody there who you're using it, change it another agency to another agency, from VADA to this agency, who do, as I said, don't test for specific substances. And when you get the results, the public, the people who bought tickets, the opponent who's fighting a guy whose life's on the line, fighting somebody who may test for PED, he is sitting there hoping that they're going to tell you what the result is. Bearing in mind, his partner's brother, Chris Eubank, he wasn't made aware by his, I don't know, do you call it a brother-in-law? I don't know if they're married or not, or partnership. He didn't even let him know. So if he's not going to let his in-laws know, or somebody who's getting in a ring know about a test, what chance has anyone got? And that's why it's wrong. Send the results to UCAD. It's really simple. All this stuff where they're going from, they're moving around from sanctioned bodies from one to another, from one state to another, which they did with Julius Chavez Jr. when he refused to take a VADA test in Vegas. They moved to another state. I think it was Phoenix. I went to Arizona or somewhere. He refused to take a test, so they took the fight elsewhere. So you're going from one state to another, changing from one drug agency to another, whatever suits. I mean, how on earth can you go from, be doing this and be taken seriously? The only reason you're testing fighters is because it's in the contract that you've got to test them, or they won't fight. My fighter fights someone like this fight that's going on Saturday. It's in the contract that they have to be tested, and quite rightly so. And the results of that test go, in this case, to UCAD, quite rightly so. And then they will pass them on. What the bleeding hell's going on there? And they will then pass them on to the governing body to deal with it. That's what should be happening. And in the meantime, they're spouting off this stuff about Conor, who, you know, and I hope Conor Benn I hope he's innocent. But the only way he's going to prove he's innocent is to take that second test and have a hearing to determine and explain why the PED's in his sample. There might be a very good reason why it's in there. But the facts of the matter is, there hasn't been a hearing to determine that. All they've been arguing about is jurisdiction. Let UKAD do it. Let the Border Control do it. And then they're spouting off about you know, what's right and what's wrong with drug-free sports and so forth. It's wrong. You cannot do it. I cannot be the person who gets a result of a test and determines whether that fight's going to go on or not. I can keep it to myself and throw it in a bin. Because that's really what was going on with the first test that Conor Benn had. No one was made aware of it. They certainly didn't let Chris Eubanks Jr. know about it, his brother-in-law.
Frank, are you 100% sure that when anyone uses drug-free sport, only the promoter of that event gets the results back?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Unless the promoter discloses it. But he shouldn't have to. That result should not be sent to him, or it should be sent to him, but it should simultaneously be sent to the governing body.
Eddie stated, you know, why don't someone ask Frank, you know, we're paying for extra testing, i.e. drug testing, with drug-free sport. What was the situation, for example, with McCann and Beluta? Obviously had UKAD testing.
They have their test.
But how many times did Beluta get tested?
I'm not particularly sure how many times they were tested, but they certainly have been tested. That's for sure. And more importantly, you know, what is the point of getting a drug agency called Drug Free Sports to test your boxers and they don't test for the substances that are banned in the UK and by VADA? It's a pointless test. What's the point of it?
Do you know the substances that I don't test for?
EPO and natural growth hormone.
Okay. What would your response be to their point, though, that there's still, even though you've just said that there's not substance that drug-free sport tests for, equivalent to VADA and UKAD, that they're still paying for extra testing, and for your shows you don't, and this is VADA?
That's not true. We pay for tests. We do have tests. Our boxers do get tested. That's untrue. More importantly, he said on, was it TalkSport, Simon Jordan? Eddie Hearn said that they hadn't used that organisation for 3 to 6 months. That was untrue. That was not true. They had tests and they'd used it. And the reason he said that, it was like dismissive of it, but they had been using it and they used it for the girl that tested positive. That's a fact. I mean, and by the way, Drug Speed Sports, who wants them to test your fighters if they're going to leave the sample on a shelf for 9 days before they send it to the laboratory? That can't be right. So it's a complete, all this is a red herring. It's really simple. You have to test for all the substances that are banned by UKAD if you're going to fight in the UK, or in any of the states in America, for example, Nevada, New York, that use the VADA criteria. What is the point of using anyone else who doesn't test for their list of banned substances? It is a pointless test.
And just to ask again, you're 100% sure that drug-free sport don't test for these substances?
I'm reliably informed that they don't test for those two drugs.
Okay.
And more importantly, and when you get the results, give them to the governing body. They're not for you, they're for the governing body. They are the people who run the sport, not me, not him, not any other promoter. The results should be given to the governing body to determine whether the boxers are fit to box and whether they've been basically cheating and using PEDs. That is what it's all about, not for me to sit there and hold them. And I'm looking at their stuff, the way they've jumped around, moving from state to state like they've done with Chavez in that fight, looking at how they conducted themselves with the Conor Benn and Eubank fights. How can you allow them to be the people who arbitrate? And how many tests have any other fighters failed? You don't know, I don't know, because none of those tests have been given to the governing body from drug-free sports. To mine, unless they have, and if they have, prove us wrong, and I'll gladly apologise for it.
Okay. So just to clarify, because they were saying, why are you commenting on our business, etc.
I'm not commenting on their business. Fuck their business. I'm commenting on the safety of boxers, of one boxer cheating, using PEDs to gain advantage over his opponent in the one most dangerous of sports. That's what I'm commenting on. And I'm commenting on it that it should be the governing body that deals with it and not the promoter who has a vested interest. That's what I'm saying. And if they don't like that, that's too bad, because I ain't going to be shutting up about it, that's for sure.
So you're
I've been listen to that. Let me just tell you something. Unlike them, I've been in this sport for many, many years, and I've seen some serious accidents and deaths in the ring. I've seen them and experienced them, been involved in them. So I don't need some little jumped up twat talking about what he's been doing. I've been there, I've done it, I've seen it, and I've seen what it does to families and so forth. It's a dreadful situation, and it's even worse, and it would be even worse if someone had taken a performance-enhancing drug and it resulted in a serious injury or fatality. How do you explain that away as a sport? You can't. Be the end of it. And anybody who's involved and trying to justify that and say it has no interest in the sport. All they're interested in is money.
So Frank, your two main issues, let me see if I'm right about this, with drug-free sport are the fact that the promoter of the event gets the results and they can adjudicate essentially what happens.
Correct.
And your second gripe of it is that the substance that they test for are different to VADA and UCAD.
Correct.
Right, okay. Move on from that. Also in those interviews, you did get labelled a small hall promoter.
Well, I am. I promote York Hall regularly. We do that to bring our fighters through. It's been a successful formula for us over the years. We bring fighters through. I can think back over the years, York Hall, Nigel Benn fought there. I can think of other small. I remember Ricky Hatton fighting at Withenshaw when he turned professional. I can think back at Joe Kawasaki and small stacks of fighters. You bring them through. Dennis McCann and Baluta last week. It was what it was. Actually, we could have gone in a much bigger venue than that, as you know. It was rammed out the place and there were people queuing to get in. However, that was what it was. If I was going to go and put that fight on a Wembley or an O2, we wouldn't sell out. We'd be curtaining it up and half filling it. And it's all about bringing through and developing our young fighters and bringing them through a system. Now, I could do what they want to do. If they want to go up to Birmingham and cordon off the arena, curtain half of it off, and then sell half of the curtained off, and then call it the next generation when the main event is 30 years of age. Next generation is the young kids. That's what our formula is with these. And I'm not having to go at, what's his name?
Yafai.
He's a very good fighter. I'm not having to go at him. I'm talking about how he's being built, the next generation. If 30 years of age is the next generation, I think a couple of them were in their 30s who were on the card as well, of the next generation, then I can get out of that box because I'm no longer an old guy, am I? If you're 30 years of age and you're the next generation, then in boxing terms, I'm a 40-year-old promoter.
You are joking though, aren't you? There when you say you're just a small hall promoter. I mean,
Well, go and look at the shows we promoted over the years. Last year, I think we done 2 shows, sold out in 2 football grounds, plus the other shows that we ran in various arenas. We do it. We're doing it. We're involved in this show here. There's 46,000 people here tomorrow. Look, they can say, look, let's get it right. I mean, what's his name? The T-boy? I mean, what does he know? At the end of the day, what experience, where has he come from to be talking about what people do in boxing? I mean, he can't even let his brother-in-law know, or his wife's brother know, that the fella he's fighting failed a test. Who's he to talk about anybody? Didn't even tell them. Hid it from them.
Frank Warren, for me, that's all. So best of luck to Daniel Dubois this Saturday night, of course, live on TNT Sports Box Office. Hopefully he brings it home. Anything you want to add?
No, but can I get a... Oh, he's
I'm
good.
coming, boss. I'm
Is
coming,
that
boss.
Listen, I told you. Go and
No
get.
sparring today.
Stop it. Go and
No
get.
sparring.
Go and get your head guard on and get your head guard on and get the baby oil out.
I'm not doing another 5 mile run and spar.
Right. Okay. Right. Just don't forget the baby oil.
Okay, I'm off to
See you later.
Right.
Knocking things over still, Andy. Thank you very much for your time, Frank.
Do not be first.
Do we do enough? Well, I never shut up about it.
It must have been about 17, 16, 17. We nicked their guilt rings. Right, the bouncer's guilt ring.
This is no good for me. That's the reality. If you want the honest truth, and I see it every day,